So unit 3 is mainly introduction to the HVDC power system. Okay, this is an introduction to the HVDC power system. And in this chapter, mainly we are going to focus upon two major sections. First section is the comparison of EHVAC and HVDC transmission. We have already covered EHVAC transmission system in the form of first and second unit, where you have come across the concept of power transfer capabilities, calculation of transmission losses, number of circuits required for transmitting large amount of power, bulk power transmission, then calculation of surface voltage gradient, and so also the effect of conductor bundling on the electric stresses. Then later on in the second chapter, we have studied mainly the effects of high electrostatic field in the form of corona phenomena, different types of corona mechanisms and all. Okay, and so also corona power loss, energy loss associated with EHVAC transmission lines. Now we are going to get introduced to the HVDC transmission. Okay, so first major section is very commonly associated with the university examinations, is based on the comparison of EHVAC, that is extra high voltage AC, and high voltage DC transmission options. Before we take up this comparison directly, let me just give you a brief idea that major part, almost like you can consider 95% or higher power transmission in India at present is based on extra high voltage AC transmission at various voltage levels, right from 765 kV, 400 kV, then 220 kV and 132 kV. Out of which the long distance transmission is mainly at 400 kV. Some new schemes they are trying for 765 kV, but they are very select few. And then of course a vast majority power transmission takes place at 220 kV and 132 kV. Okay, at the local levels. Mainly it is realized that power transmission, by using AC alternatives, it has got its own advantages in terms of stepping up and stepping down the voltages, but it has got several disadvantages as well in terms of drop in the transmission voltage over long distance and effect of line inductance and capacitance affecting the power handling capacity, as we have realized in unit number 1. Power handling capacity is dependent upon the transmission distance. It is observed that for distances larger than 300 kilometers, EHV AC network requires compensating circuits at regular intervals at every 300 kilometers in order to maintain the voltage profile and in order to have control over the power handling capacity. This is mainly due to the line inductance and line capacitance. So we have made several calculations earlier. So line inductance and line capacitance are responsible for drawing reactive power from the transmission line, and so also they were responsible for variation in the receiving end voltage with variation in the load current, and so also the transmission distance. So keeping this in view, uh, in many situations it is observed that the power generation centers are located at very remote locations. Say for example, the hydro potentials are mainly present in northeastern mountain areas where there are large river bases, and origin of many large rivers are there, northern and northeastern part of India. So there is a tremendous hydro potential. So power generated from these renewable energy plants, like the hydro potential plants, okay, it has to be utilized in a proper load centers. While these states are rich in terms of hydro potential as far as the power generation is concerned, okay, there are several large dams, and power generation is taking place, but the population in these areas is very thin, and load centers are far away in places like Delhi, Chandigarh, Punjab, and other places, Agra, UP, like this, closer to these areas. So generally, it is observed that the distance from the source point up to the load center is more than 500, 800 kilometers. So naturally, for long distance transmission, the option for high voltage DC transmission has been assessed and has been in use in several countries all over the world since 1960, 60, 65. There, it is realized that high voltage DC transmission offers several advantages in terms of bulk power transmission over long distances. Because power transmission, it simply eliminates the need to take into consideration the line inductance and capacitance, since the power transmission takes place through a DC mode. Naturally, the inductance and capacitance will not affect the power handling capacity, and this gives an upper hand to HVDC. But high voltage DC transmission networks, they have got their own disadvantages in terms of need for converter and inverter at the terminal stations. Okay, but naturally, when we look into some technology alternatives, there are certain advantages and certain disadvantages. But we have to make a comparative statement of whether advantages in a particular situation, they are weighing more than the relative cost or the disadvantages. So keeping this in mind, we are going to consider EHVAC and HVDC transmission comparison in this particular section. So mainly the comparison is based on these various points. First is the economic consideration, that is the cost. Second is the stability of the power system in handling bulk power. Then effectiveness in voltage control, third point. Then flexibility in the power flow control. Then very important is the reactive power requirement of the line. Sixth one, the flexibility in the operation of networks, large networks, maybe connected networks. Reliability of power transmission in either alternatives. Skin and proximity effect. Charging currents and interconnection of two or more AC networks. So based on these 10 points, we are going to make a comparison. This is not an exhaustive list, but it involves all major points of comparison that are stated in the literature. Right. So let us move ahead and do the comparison with respect to these points between EHVAC and HVDC transmission options. So the first point that we are going to look into is economic consideration, right? There is the economic consideration. Observe carefully that the power transmission cost is plotted on the y-axis with respect to the transmission distance. As I told you, bulk power transmission over long distances has led to the development of HVDC technology, and consequently the power transmission distance is a very important parameter, and of course considering the cost of transmission in either alternatives. Okay, so here there are two characteristics visible. One is the AC technology, you may consider EHV-AC, right? And the other one is a DC or HVDC technology. Okay. Now observe carefully that these two characteristics are crossing each other at one particular point, represented as a break-even distance D star. Break-even distance. Now what is the break-even distance? Now, as far as the conventional EHV-AC technology is concerned, right? If transmission distance is even negligible or zero, you just want to generate power and use it at your home, still there is some amount of terminal cost involved. Okay, some amount of terminal cost is involved, maybe generator, transformer, switch gears, lightning arrestor, circuit breaker, like that. Terminal cost of AC, so this is indicated, right? It may be in some crores of rupees. Okay, and as you start sending this AC power generated over long distance, right? So as the distance increases, we can observe that the cost of AC transmission increases linearly. The cost of AC transmission increases linearly. This indicates that AC transmission cost increases with the transmission distance. Now let us come to the DC option. You observe that the terminal cost of DC, right? The terminal cost of DC, it is higher as compared to the AC. There are several reasons for it that we are going to see later. Okay, so terminal cost, because it involves conversion of AC into DC, so additional equipment will be required. Rectifier at the sending end and inverter at the receiving end. So that is what terminal cost is higher. And we have to understand that is a bulk power transmission. The size of rectifier inverter is very, very large. Consequently, there is a cost, right? So size and cost of terminal. Let us say we want to generate a HVDC within a premises and don't transmit it over a distance. Still, cost comparison between AC and DC is visible here. Okay, so terminal cost of DC is higher because of use of rectifier, inverter, rectifier transformer, inverter transformer, and so on, along with the filters and other elements. Naturally, this is a one-time cost. Once the terminal is set, you can transmit the power. But observe carefully the nature of characteristics here. As transmission distance is increasing, the cost of transmitting power with increase in distance is a drooping characteristics. That means with the DC technology, if we transmit the power for distances longer than 500 to 800 kilometers, right? That is what is the break-even distance. Beyond this point, it will DC will be economical. This is the reason is that in AC you require compensating circuit at regular intervals, but in DC no compensation needed. No compensatory circuit is needed because there is no inductance and capacitance to be considered. So voltage profile is absolutely flat, except for the small resistive drop. Then what is the break-even distance? The break-even distance is the distance at which AC and DC technology both can be utilized. The cost of transmission and terminal cost put together for this particular distance, okay, they are almost equal. They are equal. So break-even distance. Observe that for especially for the underground transmission power, especially in places where there are small islands which are connected through sea, and cable is to be let down under the sea for distances longer than 30 to 50 kilometers. So DC is the best alternative because it's not possible to transmit power through AC, right? Because of this, again, reason is that AC draws a large charging current and we cannot transmit power for distances larger than 30 to 50 kilometers. It's uneconomical. So this is a cost comparison. We are going to check what are the different costs. Okay, right. Let us now check with the breakup of cost of power transmission uh, for HVAC and HVDC. The total cost total cost of transmission can be divided into two parts, mainly terminal cost as indicated on the characteristics earlier, and the transmission line cost, or you may consider the transmission cost. Now, what is the terminal cost? So we must realize here, right? Okay, what is the terminal cost? Basically, the terminal cost uh, is required for setting up the terminal station. Like so, generally this cost of terminal station is very high. Okay, in terms of HVDC system as compared to AC system, because not only generator and step up transformers are required, okay, but you do require additional elements which are otherwise not present in the AC network, like the AC to DC and DC to AC converter circuits. These are high power circuits, bulk power transmission, okay. And secondly, for stable operation of converters, converter transformers are required. So these transformers, depending upon the pulse number of operation for HVDC circuits, converters, converter transformers, these are special transformers. They are not the conventional transformers. They are supposed to provide stable operation as far as the rectifier and inverter is concerned. And so also there is a need for filters, because rectifiers and inverters are used, so large amount of harmonics are generated in the system. So filters, these are required on either side, rectifier side as well as on the inverter side. That's why the cost of terminal station is very high as far as the HVDC system is concerned. Okay. Say on the other hand, all these equipments are not required in case of HVAC system. That is why from the characteristics we have realized that terminal cost of HVDC system is larger as compared to EHVAC system. Now let us take a look at what is the transmission line cost. Okay. So transmission line cost, right? Transmission line cost, what does it consist of? The transmission line cost consists of cost of conductors, transmission towers, right of way, and so also the cost of transmission losses. So transmission cost, or the variable part of the cost in the characteristics, which increases linearly with the distance. It depends upon the cost of conductors, the cost of towers, the right of way. Right of way means the corridor, the space required for installing the tower structures. If you are transmitting bulk power, then naturally the land permissions will be required for installing the towers. So that is what is right of way. on what way you want to install the tower. So that much amount of permission is needed. It is a costly affair that government has to pay it to the farmers or the owners of the plot through which the transmission line network may pass, just in case there is no other option, or the land lies under the category of maybe under the possession of government itself. Then lastly, the cost of transmission losses. As transmission distance increases, right, the transmission losses are bound to increase. Okay. In case of EHV-AC power system, the transmission cost increases due to inductance and capacitance, right? In case of EHV-AC, right, the power transmission cost increases. It increases linearly, mainly because of dependence on inductance and capacitance. Okay, inductance and capacitance. As more and more distance increases, the line inductance and capacitance is bound to increase, right? And consequently, what happens is that due to presence of these elements, the voltage profile gets affected, power handling capacity gets affected, and so also the power angle gets affected as far as the transmission distance for as far as the transmission distance as it increases above 300 kilometers. Okay, as the transmission distance increases above 300 kilometers, intermediate substations are required in order to improve the voltage profile. So intermediate substations will be required at regular interval of 300 km for EHV AC transmission. That is why the transmission cost, or the variable part of the cost, increases linearly with the transmission network. जितना ज़्यादा distance पे जाएंगे उतने intermediate station वो cost add होते जाएगा, और consequently the voltage profile will get affected and power angle will get affected, and naturally the transmission losses will also get affected, right? So that is the reason. Now we come to the second paragraph. What happens in case of HVDC system? In case of HVDC system, the cost of conductor, right? In case of HVDC system, the cost of conductors, the right of way and transmission loss is reduced, or it is lesser, since what happens is that only two conductors are used. See, because power handling capacity of a single circuit HVDC line is not limited by the transmission distance, neither limited by any power angle. Okay, so power transfer capability for a DC circuits, only two conductors, one positive pole and one negative pole. These will be required for transmitting the power. Okay, and that to single circuit. Multiple circuits will not be required, because power handling capacity is not dependent upon transmission distance, neither dependent on the power angle as far as the DC is concerned, right? And consequently, if there is only one pair of conductors required, right, so the need for space and ground clearance will also be lesser, right? The need for space and ground clearance, so cost is less in HVDC. Only two conductors, right? So we are going to check in HVDC system, the cost of conductor is reduced, the cost of towers is reduced, and since number of towers are less, the cost of space required for installing tower is reduced, right? And so also, since there is no inductance and capacitance effect, so there is no line loading on this account, and consequently transmission losses are also reduced. Okay, transmission losses are also affected by the number of conductors that are involved in the bulk power transmission. Or if there are only two conductors, transmission losses are drastically reduced. So this is what the transmission line cost is concerned. Now let us check with one simple comparison of bulk power transmission in the form of a diagram. Okay, kindly focus your attention on the left hand side of the diagram, that is this part. Okay, so you can see here, sorry, you can see here that if you are using a 400 kV AC line, okay, and we would like to transfer, let us say, a power of 1200 or maybe 1500 megawatts, you have made several calculations in the first chapter, first unit, and you realize that for transmitting a power of maybe 1500 or 2000 megawatt at 400 kV, you require several number of circuits. So you can consider this is circuit 1, right? Then this is circuit 2, okay, then this is circuit 3, and lastly this is circuit 4. So 3 phase, okay, circuit 1, circuit 2, circuit 3, circuit 4. So 2 sets of tower are capable of carrying 4 circuits. So 4 circuit, that means 4 multiplied by 3, 12 conductors, isn't it? 12 conductors are required for transmitting power of, let us say, 1500 or 2000 megawatt at an AC voltage of 400 kV, which is commonly used nowadays in India. Okay, and naturally when you want to install 2 sets of towers, you can see the amount of space requirement. Okay, the space required 96 meters. If you calculate in feet, no, you will be able to realize nearly 300 feet. The huge space required for installing the towers for carrying this kind of line configuration. Okay, but let us come to the other alternative. Let us come to the other alternative and do the comparison. Okay, observe that there is one set of bundle conductors for positive polarity conductors and then negative polarity. Only 2 sets of conductors are used. Only 2 sets of conductors are used. Okay, and naturally you require a single circuit for transmitting the power. This is a single circuit plus minus 500 kV DC line, which is capable of carrying power equal to 4 circuits of 400 kV AC line. So there is a drastic change in the amount of infrastructure required. Only single tower will be able to handle this, and since this is DC, the ground clearance required is also less, so the height of tower can be lesser. It requires lesser spacing, only 46 meters, okay, because there is a single tower structure, right? And naturally no compensating circuits are required at intermediate distances. Directly this can be transmitted over a distance of 800, 1000, 2000 kilometers without any need for compensation in between. Okay, so that is why we can clearly see that HVDC offers some advantages as far as the long distance power transmission is concerned. Now let us come to the next point of comparison between AC and DC technologies, and this particular point is about the stability. Okay, focus your attention on the characteristics which indicates power handling capacity on the y-axis and transmission distance on the x-axis. As far as the stability is concerned, it is observed that actually power handling capacity of AC alternative, it is dependent upon the power angle as well as transmission distance. Okay, so as the transmission distance increases, right, so what will happen is that we can see the power handling capacity will decrease. This is due to the obvious reason. We have made these calculations earlier. It is inversely proportional to the transmission distance. It is inversely proportional to the transmission distance. So in case of AC, as distance increases, the power handling capacity goes on decreasing. Okay, but what is the scenario with respect to DC? So this DC characteristics power handling capacity
Okay, you can observe here as transmission distance increases, uh, there is a negligible change in the amount of power that can be handled by DC line. It's a flat profile. It's a flat profile. That's power handling capacity is unaffected by power angle or inductance or transmission distance and so on. So this is quite remarkable. That is why it is said that DC can be will be able to transmit power for long distances. Transmission cost is not the power handling capacity remains nearly constant here. Okay, so very flat profile, right? Not only this, uh, the power angle, the power angle in case of AC power transmission, it goes on increasing with the transmission distance. So generally, delta it should be kept at around 30 degrees, but as transmission distance increases beyond 200 or maybe 300 kilometers, this delta goes on increasing, thereby decreasing the stability margin. It decreases the stability margin as uh, transmission distance increases. So that's why compensating circuits are used in order to maintain the power angle within the prescribed margin, adding to the cost. Okay, so let us move ahead. So that is what is mentioned here on the top, that power angle goes on increasing. Power angle goes on increasing as the transmission distance it increases. Transmission distance as it increases. Okay, so this is the point. It increases, right? Considering the stability margin, increase in the power angle is undesirable. It's undesirable. We cannot allow power angle to increase, right? But the power handling capacity in HVDC system is unaffected. Okay, this is quite remarkable. It's unaffected that we have seen from the characteristics already. Okay, let us now come to the next point of comparison, that is the voltage control. Okay, here at the bottom, in the voltage control, mainly x-axis there is the characteristics plotted with respect to transmission distance, y-axis is the voltage profile or the voltage on the transmission network. Observe carefully here that there are three different characteristics. Okay, one characteristics here dotted blue, the swelling, or you can see here is there is a bump here. Okay, and then there is a sagging characteristics, blue dotted characteristics, and third one, the ideal one, right at the center, flat. Okay, please observe carefully that the characteristics above and the characteristics below here, these both the characteristics are for the EHV-AC transmission option. One is for loading of the transmission line less than the surge impedance loading, and other is for the transmission line loading greater than the surge impedance loading. Now generally surge impedance loading depends upon the transmission network parameters. Okay, and it is generally a standard value, right? It can be calculated as depending upon the per unit distance, inductance and capacitance for a given transmission network. So it is observed basically that if the line loading is less than the surge impedance loading for a standard transmission network, this is a standard value. Okay, surge impedance loading. If load on the line is less than the surge impedance loading, okay, then it is observed that the AC voltage uh, increases at a distance, okay, in the middle of the transmission distance. Transmission line, let us say this total distance is 300 kilometers, then at around 150 kilometers, if we try to measure the voltage profile, it is realized that voltage will be increasing by 15 to 20% in the middle of the line. Okay, so naturally there may be a question in our mind, why if the voltages are maintained at the sending and receiving end, why we are worried about the voltage level at the middle here? Because the receiving end will have a voltage profile equal to the sending end in case of AC only in presence of a compensating circuit. Only if in presence of a compensating circuit If there is no compensating circuit, then maybe the voltage swell will be very adverse at the receiving end. It may just keep rising due to low low amount of load on the line. Okay. Similarly, if you observe for loading greater than the surge impedance loading, there is a voltage sag. There is a voltage sag in the middle of the line. Okay, assuming that compensating circuit is present at the receiving end. Okay, if this sag is not taken care, naturally it will land somewhere. Okay, so there is a need for compensating circuit, and there is a need for voltage control in case of EHV-AC line. But let us observe the characteristics for DC. The characteristics for DC is all the way very much flat. Okay, and it is restricted only by the resistive drop. It is restricted mainly by the resistive drop. There is no inductance capacitance effect. So generally the resistive drop is very small, and consequently the DC voltage profile with increasing transmission distance is absolutely flat. Okay, here the diagram is somewhat indicative, but then this gap is not very huge. It's a very small gap as far as the DC is concerned. Okay, because it's only resistive voltage drop. Okay, so this is the third point of comparison with respect to the EHV-AC and HVDC technology. So these same points are described here in the form of a description. That is, for surge impedance loading greater than SI, loading on the transmission line greater than SIL, the voltage at the middle will be very high, and for less, okay, it will be higher. Okay, for loading greater than surge impedance loading, it will be low, and for loading less than surge impedance loading, it will be high at the middle of the line. Consequently, compensating circuit or voltage profile maintaining circuit will be required, but that is not the case with the HVDC. Let us move ahead further. Now we come to the next point of comparison, and that is power flow control. It's very important, power flow control. Now you will come to features of HVDC technology that will really make you think about it, and that is very obvious. So first and foremost, power flow control. Okay, in case of EHV-AC system, there is no control over the amount of power flowing through the circuit. There is no control. जैसे अपना जो AC नेटवर्क है, AC नेटवर्क में जब भी कोई लोड ऑन होता है, ऑफ होता है, मे बी कमर्शियल, इंडस्ट्रियल, ओके, any load can be switched on and switched off any time. Okay, and accordingly the generator will sense that there is a demand, there is a rise in the power, and generator will adjust the steam input, and accordingly the power output is raised, and we get the output. So there is no control over the amount of power flowing. It is completely dependent upon the type of load, right? And similarly, the other thing is that it is dependent upon the operating conditions, type of load and operating. AC सिस्टम में क्या है, जैसे जैसे लोड बढ़ाएंगे वैसे वैसे पावर उसमें से ड्रॉ होंगे. ठीक है, you cannot control the power. Okay, we cannot control the power flow in the AC network. It's simply the loads are governing it. Okay. But when we come to the other alternative, that is HVDC line, right? The power is given by the equation PD is equal to V1 minus V2 times of ID. Basically DC power, VD into ID. What is V1 minus V2? Okay, V1 minus V2 is basically rectifier end voltage. Okay, you can observe here, there is a rectifier end voltage V1 minus the inverter end voltage V1 minus V2 upon this V1 minus V2 multiplied by ID. So very simple DC power equation, and the most important thing is that the power can be controlled. The power can be controlled very rapidly by adjusting the values of V1 and V2 in case of HVDC network. Power controllability, absolutely, it's a huge advantage, can be controlled very rapidly by adjusting the DC terminal voltages V1 and V2. Now there may be a question in your mind, how to adjust DC voltages V1 and V2? The obvious answer is very simple. You have studied power electronics. How to adjust the output voltage of a rectifier and inverter? Very simple. The voltage can be simply adjusted by adjusting the firing angle, right? So that is what is mentioned here, that these voltages can be controlled efficiently and precisely by controlling the firing angles, isn't it? And more importantly, not only you can control the firing angle and adjust the voltage, but you can also make it possible to reverse the direction of power flow. आगे चल के हम ऐसे कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स देखने वाले हैं कि जहाँ पे अगर हमने V2 को V1 से ज़्यादा बना दिया in this equation, if V2 is more than V1, then this will come out to be negative, indicating that power can flow, that inverter will act as a rectifier, rectifier will act as an inverter, so power will flow from second terminal to the first terminal. So reversal of power flow, this is quite remarkable. And rate of such power flow control is of the order of 30 megawatt per hour, which is difficult to achieve in case of EHV AC system. Okay, so this is the fourth point of comparison. All right. Next point of comparison between EHVAC and HVDC transmission network is in terms of the reactive power requirement of the lines. Okay, is in terms of the reactive power requirement of the line. So first of all, we consider the EHVAC alternative, right? In case of EHVAC power transmission circuit, due to the charging current and the inductive voltage drop, the EHVAC line require reactive power compensation for distances above 300 km at regular intervals. Earlier also we have mentioned this. There we have mentioned in terms of maintaining the voltage profile, okay, and similarly the power handling capacity. Not only that, actually it is affected due to the presence of reactive power requirement on the line. Because of the line inductance and line capacitance, right, there is a charging current, and so also the inductive voltage drop required for EHVAC stable operation, and it draws reactive power and requires reactive power compensation at regular intervals of 300 kilometers. Okay, with the development in the transmission and this technology, this distance naturally is gradually it is increasing. Okay, but in case of HVDC technology, okay, in case of HVDC technology, there is no line inductance, no reactive power requirement as far as the transmission lines are concerned. There is no reactive power requirement for the lines, right? Lines does not have any inductance, it does not have any capacitance, so naturally, so it will not require any reactive power. Okay, line inductance, capacitance will not affect. Okay, however, you have to understand that a large amount of reactive power is required for stable operation of converters. Please understand, लाइन के लिए रिएक्टिव पावर की जरूरत नहीं है जो कि EHVAC में है, लेकिन लाइन में रिएक्टिव पावर रिक्वायर्ड नहीं, बट इट विल बी रिक्वायर्ड at the terminal substations where rectifier and inverters are installed, because they draw huge amount of harmonics. Consequently, for stable operation of converter, you do require large reactive power compensation. So there is a bit of trade-off, but naturally This reactive power compensation, it comes under the terminal cost part, but this one comes under the transmission line cost. This is dependent on the distance. This is a one-time cost for as far as the compensation is concerned. Okay, right? Now let us check with the next part of comparison, that is flexibility in control. Okay, and as far as the flexibility is concerned, you can observe a very important point as far as the HVDC system offers. The HVDC system offers wide flexibility of operation from full rectification to full inversion. By properly adjusting the firing angle and setting the operating conditions, it is possible to make rectifier work as inverter or inverter work as a rectifier, and that too at both ends of the HVDC link. But in case of EHV-AC, this flexibility is not there. Okay, sending end is only generator, receiving end is only load. Okay, so in case there are two large interconnected AC networks, then you cannot control the power flow from one end to the another. Okay, so that flexibility is not there. But if you observe at the other aspect of it, you will realize that in case of AC system, it is possible to tap the power. Okay, it is possible to tap the power at intermediate locations. जैसे AC नेटवर्क में क्या है कि यदि आप यहाँ से you are transmitting to a distance of 300 kilometers and let us say some town is emerging at a distance of 100 or 150 kilometer in between. So all you have to do is just install a step-up transformer at some intermediate location along the line length, and you are simply able to step down the voltage and utilize it directly. Okay, naturally the generator capacity has to be taken into consideration, but tapping the power in AC network is not a very difficult task. But in HVDC system, power cannot be tapped, okay, without increasing the complexity of control. Power cannot be tapped without increasing the complexity of control. So you have to realize that we cannot tap power from HVDC system just like that, but just by installing a step-down transformer or maybe some kind of inverter or rectifier. It's not that possible. Okay, it has to completely modify the controller characteristics of all the HVDC stations connected on that particular line. Okay, that we are also going to check and see in detail at a later stage in the fourth unit. Okay, the next point that we would like to understand is the reliability. Now this is quite a remarkable feature as far as the HVDC system is concerned. This is quite remarkable as far as HVDC system is concerned. Reliability of operation. Okay, the reliability of EHV-AC transmission is low. Okay, it is low because of its inability to operate with two phases. You have to understand. Okay, AC system cannot operate in case of LG fault. जैसे समझो 3 फेज लाइन है और एक लाइन पे फॉल्ट हो गया, तो बाकी 2 फेजेस के साथ में वो सर्किट को ऑपरेट करना ये पॉसिबल नहीं है. It cannot operate. It's an unbalanced system. Okay, it is unbalanced system. It's unstable. Okay, but on the other hand, in case of a bipolar HVDC circuit, right? In case of bipolar circuit, bipolar means positive or negative pole. Bipolar HVDC link. Okay, it gives extended period of operation. अगर एक लाइन पे फॉल्ट हो भी गया, ठीक है, तो अर्थ को रिटर्न बना के दूसरी लाइन के साथ पावर हम काफी देर तक ले सकते हैं. तो ये काफी रिमार्केबल फीचर है और केवल डीसी सर्किट में ये पॉसिबल है. बाइपोलर डीसी में इट इज पॉसिबल. ठीक है, तो दैट इज व्हाट इज द रिलायबिलिटी. रिलायबिलिटी ऑफ डीसी सिस्टम इज मच हायर. इसमें तीन में से एक लाइन पे भी फॉल्ट हुआ, तीनों लाइन डाउन हो जाएंगे. बट इन केस ऑफ अ बाइपोलर HVDC लिंक, you can have extended period of operation with a single pole and ground as a return. With a single pole and ground as a return. Ground है ना, अर्थ इलेक्ट्रोड यूज होता है. ये भी हम डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे, कैसे ग्राउंड में से कैसे करंट फ्लो होता है, क्या मैकेनिज्म. ऑल दिस इन वी आर गोइंग टू स्टडी एट लेटर स्टेज. मे बी दिस इन दी some part here in the third unit and later on in the fourth unit as well, right? So even if one pole is down, जैसे दो लाइन है, पॉजिटिव लाइन और नेगेटिव लाइन. पॉजिटिव लाइन पे फॉल्ट हो गया तो नेगेटिव लाइन और ग्राउंड यूज करके अपन काफी देर तक पावर सप्लाई कर सकते हैं. दिस इज remarkable feature as far as the power transmission reliability is concerned. Next, we come to the other effects, that is skin and proximity effect. Okay, what is the skin effect, what is the proximity effect? These are both the inductance related effect and will be observed mainly in the EHV-AC lines. Okay, EHV-AC line. What is happening is that due to skin effect and proximity effect, the current flows over smaller cross section near the surface of the conductor. Okay, consequently the current density is higher and losses are also higher. Okay, but these effects are completely absent in case of HVDC transmission. Skin effect, proximity effect, it does not affect the HVDC system. As a consequence, losses are lesser in case of HVDC. Losses means directly it is the cost, isn't it? So it reduces the cost. Next is the charging current. Okay, charging current. The operation of underground and submarine cable with EHV-AC. अगर हमें कभी अंडरग्राउंड केबल यूज करना है, एक आइलैंड से दूसरे आइलैंड पे पावर भेजना है, तो टावर से नहीं ले आ सकते, केबल यूज करेंगे. सो EHV ड्रॉज ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ कैपेसिटर चार्जिंग करंट and it is nearly 60 to 70% of full load. तो AC जो है वो लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस में अगर आपको अंडरग्राउंड केबल यूज करना तो बिल्कुल यूज नहीं कर सकते इस कारण से. ठीक है, सो 50 किलोमीटर से ज्यादा अगर ट्रांसमिट करना है तो EHV-AC कैनॉट बी यूज्ड, बट with HVDC it is very much possible, and many of island countries, they have generation at one island and they transmit power to the other island by using HVDC cable. Okay, so charging current. And lastly, we come to the interconnection of two or more AC system. Please remember, interconnection of two or more AC networks, right? जैसे अगर समझो दो स्टेट्स है, महाराष्ट्र एंड आंध्रा. Okay, then there is always some exchange of power between them in order to compensate for any excess capacity or increase in the demand. So when we interconnect two different AC systems, one may be stable, other may be slightly unstable, one may be strong or bigger, other may be smaller. Okay, so naturally they have different dynamics. There is a difference in the system frequencies. Okay, so naturally whenever we want to connect such system, there are several problems that are associated of operating. क्योंकि अपने क्या है, जैसे मल्टीपल स्टेट्स है, रीजन्स है, अलग अलग ग्रिड्स है. इंडिया में जैसे 5 बड़ी ग्रिड्स है. ओके, ईस्ट वेस्ट नॉर्थ साउथ नॉर्थ ईस्ट. ओके, these grids are interconnected in order to exchange the power within the country, in order to handle any emergency. But exchange of power has to be taken care that different load conditions are there in different states. Okay, so frequency may vary. Naturally there are some difficulties in dealing with such kind of scenario. So what are those difficulties? Those difficulties are presence of large power oscillations. Okay, here you can see presence of large power oscillations are there, that may lead to frequency tripping. Okay, or you may consider increase in the fault level. एक सिस्टम जब दूसरे सिस्टम से जुड़ जाएगा तो उसका जनरेटर, सब जनरेटर्स पैरेलल में आ जाएंगे, फॉल्ट लेवल बढ़ जाएगा. Okay, impedances will come in parallel, current level will increase, fault level will increase. Okay, एंड ट्रांसमिशन ऑफ डिस्टर्बेंस, जैसे अगर समझो एक सिस्टम में फॉल्ट हुआ तो दूसरे में भी वो अफेक्ट करेगा. एक सिस्टम में फॉल्ट हुआ तो इट विल ड्रॉ करंट फ्रॉम द अदर ऑल्सो बिकॉज देर इंटरकनेक्टेड. तो इसलिए इस तरह के जो मैकेनिज्म है इसमें EHV AC नेटवर्क जो है वो हेल्पफुल नहीं रहता. AC नेटवर्क में आप पावर फ्लो कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते. ओके, सो व्हाट इज द ऑप्शन? द ऑप्शन इज दैट वी यूज HVDC सिस्टम. रेक्टिफायर इन्वर्टर का एक पेयर है वो यूज करते हैं दो AC नेटवर्क को जोड़ने के लिए. ओके, एंड ए सिंपल कंट्रोल क्राइटेरिया कैन बी एस्टेब्लिश्ड इन ऑर्डर टू हैव complete flexibility, right? So these are the different points that we have discussed as far as the comparison of EHV AC and HVDC transmission technologies.